Are you ready? The Cornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Join Cornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Cornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I am so excited. I have Kim McElroy with us again. She was recently on our show, Stories of Hope, is when we introduced her on the Transformation Talk Network. And I invited her to come back into this show where we can speak to her in a little bit on a little bit longer show to find out more about her experience, her love with horses, and all the things that she's learned and is here to educate and help us understand. Welcome to the show today, Kim.
Thank you. So happy to be here, Cornelia.
So good, so good. I want to first, before we get into the show today, I want to kind of let people know about your bio so that any person that is a podcaster, people that are listening to it, have a better understanding about what your bio is. You've been drawn to horses since childhood, and as soon as you could hold a crayon, this manifested as your art. For more than 30 years, you've been known for your intuitive understanding of the sentient nature of horses and your ability to infuse your art with their spiritual energy. You distill this energy into expressions of horses, quintessential beingness in ways that transcend how they are traditionally defined. Through your incredible mastery of pastels and your talent in writing about your artistic insights, you convey the power and beauty of the horse's form. Yet more than that, you also offer us a timeless glimpse of that energy, of the soul energy in the horses as well. And back in 2000, you and your husband, Rod, created Skyland Sea Sanctuary in Washington State, where you provided loving forever homes to rescued horses and a ton of other animals as well. Now that your beloved horses have joined the council, their sanctuary is home to a resident herd of wild but well-fed deer and two Capricornius house cats. Yes. And so you're the author also and illustrator of From Heart to Art, a chronicle of experiences, philosophies, and inspirations behind the artwork of Kim McElroy, illustrator of The Way of the Horse. Equine Archetypes for Self-Discovery card deck, a guidebook by Linda Koenoff, and the author and illustrator of The Way of the Horse journal. So, wow, what a horse journey you have been on. Welcome to the show today, Kim McElroy.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here with the horses.
Yes, that's so good. So, we talked about how you've been, a lover of horses for an early age, and also how you have created a sanctuary with your husband, have a book, and also created an oracle card deck. And we want to be able to really dive into the oracle card deck today and look at what I'm going to be asking you certain questions about what the horses are communicating to us through this deck and how we can use it for our own spiritual advancement and insight and whatnot, right?
Absolutely.
Now, you pulled some cards for us today before we started the show.
I did.
And about your deck. And so what was your process? And then maybe you can share some of the cards before we go into more of the cards itself.
I'd love to. So it's so wonderful to have this this amazing guidance at my fingertips because it gives me the talismans, the keystone reading to touch in on. My guides are horses and horse wisdom, and the more I've got to know horses, the more I've realized how amazing their guidance is for humanity. And so the Council of Horses Oracle has just been already, it just came out in October. So it's already um, finding its way into the hearts and homes of beautiful people the world over. And I'll just show a brief glimpse of it. This is the deck, and you have a copy of the deck as well. And so it's a fascinating deck because it's not only spirit guides, which I have co-created with Sandra Wallen, but also that are tangible horses that were in our lives, and horses that we've met and known throughout our lives. So it's showing the incredible gifts that horses offer, both in our lives in real time, on the planet, and also these amazing guided spirits that are joining us. And so today I've been, finding that. I'm drawing cards for different reasons, of course, personally, but also it's so much fun to tap into what is this wisdom for the group. And so I thought I would pick a card, one each for me in this event, you in this event. What do we need, or what guidance can we receive from the horses today? And then also the group that's listening to us and will listen to us in the future. So I'm delighted to share these with you. They're always surprising, and also there's always a nod to, oh, that's familiar. And so the first card I picked is always a blessing to me, because when I first had the vision, actually in 2006, for what this deck has manifested as, it was a meditation that I did with a horse that I received his name as Red Bear. And this is the card um, that I chose, which is also Red Bear. So to me, this was fascinating. He's the guide of slowing down, taking the time it takes, and following the path through the woods, even when the path doesn't look as clear as you'd like it to be. That your detours and ways around the obstacles might actually be the path that you're supposed to take. And then also reflecting and hibernating, and not pushing so far, pushing, trying to get answers. And so to me, this was a beautiful nod to the creation of this deck. And I believe this horse guide, who I'd never met in person, but met in psychic realms, that he is just saying, I'm here for everyone listening, and I'm here. He's like guiding me in this journey, which is such a comfort. And I don't want to take too much time to read the card deck, but each card has an essay that's beautifully appropriate. And his guidance is, patience is a virtue. Uh,
Kim, before you go on, I just want to say that, even though the message that you pulled, this was the guidance
it's
for
always,
you
yeah,
in this event, but I also want to say that message is very fitting for me right now also. And I wonder too that the people that are listening, if you can also relate to this energy right now for you as well, because the not pushing, the slowing down, the maybe not even having full clarity, that you're in the middle of the forest right now and you're really not sure, but you're going to be taking another step, but you don't know, you can't see really that far ahead. It is really fitting for me as well. So I just want you to
beautiful.
know that. So thank you for that.
Oh, I've just got chills. It's so beautiful, and I love how that happens. It's all about synchronicity and timing, and every message is for, the group consciousness, the individual, and all is one. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. And so the card I picked for you today was interesting. It's a challenging card. It's called Forgotten Ones, and it's about the horses that have been sort of left behind, or a part of oneself that's left behind, the memory of something that needs to be recalled and remembered and brought into consciousness so that it will have its full potential. It's two horses walking into the distance, almost into the light, and it's a form of resilience. It's they're two horses, but they're actually it's hard to see probably in the camera, but they're almost repeated like spirit forms, like they're walking into their own future, which is a future that we want to fill with hope. And so I don't know what this means for you in today's reading, or if it feels appropriate, but the message to me is just that there is a form of resilience, and there's a part of you, or someone that's listening, that needs to be remembered. And the guidance is out of sight, out of mind. So bringing to mind something that we've forgotten.
Yes, and I welcome that in, and I'm open to receiving that guidance and that message. And what's coming up for me is I am now presently doing legacy work with people, and so it's interesting because I'm
Oh,
helping them remember some of the things that they haven't thought about in a long time, so that they can
wow.
capture their wisdom and leave that legacy behind for the next generation and give them roots. And
Oh,
so that you're saying this right now is very fitting, because I'm very open in this energy right now, and very much in my heart connected to this field of expression that wants to be remembered. So thank you for that.
oh, that's so beautiful. I've done some of that work, and I know how powerful that can be in constellations and other forms that I've learned. So, oh, what a blessing, and how lovely to reframe that, because sometimes when we pick challenging cards, there's a bit of a holding of the breath, like, oh, what does this mean? Because it feels like it's a personal, like, uh-oh, kind of feeling, or is there something I've missed? But when you confirm it like that, it's a form of light, that's you're showing the light for others, offering them the lighted way. It's so beautiful. Thank you.
It's
Great.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then the third card I chose for the group consciousness of the group, and this is Carousel. And it's fascinating to me because the people that I've guided through some readings already have given impressions. Their instant interpretation of this card is usually, oh, I'm going too fast, and I'm not sure. I'm on the merry-go-round. I don't know how to get off, kind of thing. Or they will reflect on the sort of almost um, the pattern of the horses being spinning around as a form of being trapped. And actually, we interpreted this guidance to be more like the horses are spinning for you so that you can become centered. You know how it's almost like being in the eye of the storm, like riding the carousel. The world will spin by, but you yourself can feel empowered by these beautiful horses. And they're actually living horses that are running this carousel, which I really enjoyed painting them that way. And it's changing perspective. So it's almost like a time machine. You step on the carousel and you choose your horse, and this horse is your guide for this moment in time. And as you spin, you can release all the things that are not manifesting in the way that you choose. And when you step off the carousel, you're now in a new place. So it's such a beautiful reflection of the spinning of our world right now. We're all kind of feel like we're spinning out of control, but let the horses do the spinning for you.
Totally. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And even, we're in this full moon energy, this Taurus full moon right now. And there is so much, it's a doozy. It's really asking us right now to trust and to release and to surrender and let go of all the habits and patterns and whatever's not working, so that we can really align fully what is working and what is ready for us now. And so I think this is perfect to allow the horses to do the spinning for us, and to release and let go of all the things that isn't our truth, that isn't in alignment with where we're going next.
Absolutely. And what we're drawn to, because uh, the way we wrote the card and the guidance from the horses was, if anyone's ever ridden a carousel, especially as a child, you get on the carousel and you're drawn to this one particular horse, and you really hope that you can choose that horse to ride, that nobody else gets that horse because that's the one you want to ride. And so we do have choice in all of these amazing celestial energies around us.
When I was a child, I'm going to connect this little story that I'm about to tell you. I'm going to connect it to a dream that I had, but I want to first talk to you a little bit about how this was all birthed and how this all came to life. But I just want to say this story. When I was a child, I was bitten by a horse. And so it was interesting. I was trying to give sugar to the horse, but I don't know, maybe it fell out of my hand or something, but then the horse, you know, got me got my arm
Right.
mouth like that. And so early on I had a fear of horses,
Yes.
because I thought they were going to bite me, right?
Right, right.
So I had not even remembered that until just now. Until
Wow.
So, isn't that interesting? So I'm remembering that now, that I had a fear of horses since I was a child. Very
Yes.
interesting.
Horses they have that dichotomy. Sometimes they're either this amazing, where people are drawn to them from the time of birth, which is my experience. But they're large creatures, and they can be very daunting, and there's accidents or events that happen that are very scary. So they also have a great deal of fear attached to them.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's very interesting, and I just now remembered that, and you did pull a card for me that there was something challenging also possibly, that
Right.
right? That
Something forgotten.
something forgotten, and
Right.
yeah, something forgotten, and, I didn't make that connection until right now.
Hmm.
So how did the idea for the Council of Horses Oracle come about? How did this idea come about?
It was, it's funny how ideas form. There's so many steps into um, the memories and the experiences that lead to something. And this actually has been a project that's been evolving for nearly 20 years. As I mentioned, Red Bear, the horse that I chose today, was a guide that appeared to me when I was asking what work I was to do in the world. And I was doing some work with Sandra Wallen, who's the co-author of the book, and did some artwork as well in the card deck. And she's an equine assisted teacher. She has a practice changing belief, consciousness, and does healing work with people and horses. So uh, we were co-creating back then even, and I had found this way of looking at horses and being with horses through the work of Linda Kohanoff, who you mentioned in my forward. She and I also did an oracle. It's called a wisdom deck, called Way of the Horse, that's based on her work in the assisted learning field. And both of those women were at a workshop that I attended, that was just one of those pivotal moments in my life that was very life changing, because I had been doing my art for about 10 years at that point, with this intent of, what was I to do in the world with the horses that came to me spiritually and tangibly. And I had just acquired my first horse, actually. So even though I've painted horses all my life, I didn't own a horse until I was 29.
Mm.
So she was an ex racehorse, and she was very challenging, had a lot of fear herself. And it was difficult to navigate this new experience with this incredibly large being that was quite scared of things. And so I wanted to find ways of communicating with her, and I was led to the work of Linda Kohanoff. And so all of those, everything that comes into my personal sphere, I have always poured back into my art. And so the deck became a way of taking all of this wisdom that was coming to me from my intuitive reality with being with horses and training my intuition, because they were like my tuning forks. When you're with horses in a healing setting, the horses will reflect. Well, they always do this, but especially in a healing setting, when you feel safe and they feel safe, there's moments of reflection where guidance is offered, and you can see through their body language them, they play out almost what's inside your heart, and you can almost dialogue with them, especially with the guidance of any trained facilitator, to, to say, for instance, one time and so many emotions would come up, and I wouldn't even always have words for them. But one time I just walked into the space with this horse, and I just was feeling this huge void and this huge sense of grief, and I didn't really know where it was coming from. And I held out my hands, and the horse started licking my hand, and I just felt like there was something there, and I just said in my mind to the horse, you know, I wanted to be born a horse, and it was almost like this grief of, why am I a human, this human body? And I just had this message appear in my consciousness that was, you had to have hands. And it was such a beautiful moment, and tied in with this physicality of the horse licking my hands and saying, you are who you're meant to be, and you're doing the work that you were meant to do. You're giving us a voice through your hands. So that was just a pivotal moment. And that's essentially what I pour into every work of art and every word I write.
It's so beautiful. That's such a beautiful story, and what a beautiful way for you to, now offer this work through these amazing oracle cards out to the collective, to people that also. We have a guest here today that's been a horse lover. She said her early on her entire life, and I know there's many people that also have those experiences as well. So that's why even in the title, I called you horse lover, because it's true. That's what you are. You are a lover of horses. And,
Mhm.
um, why is it that you think that people are drawn to horses?
They are, there's so many things. They're a being on the planet that has so preceded us in their evolution and their wisdom. They were here something like 52 million years as the Eohippus, little miniature progenitor to the horse, which actually is one of the cars, is Eohippus, as well. So they have that ancient wisdom of the earth, I think, and they embody that. But they also, because they're part of our society, part of our history. They, everything that has been created has essentially come to us on the back of a horse. So we have this archetypal link to them. They are a soul being that is just in our mind and spirit and heart. And so, even if we don't have horses in our lives, or they're not part of our reality, they are in our consciousness and our DNA, essentially. Actually, I read a book by Wendy Williams called The Horse, and she says that in science, they've actually discovered that we share some of the same stem uh, DNA, stem cells with horses. So, to me, we're linked with them, and even if we don't know about that, it's in our archetypal memory, our soul memory. And my belief is that the divinity of horses, that because we've had this long association with them, from the cave paintings and all of the incredible history that we've shared with them, they seem to carry our consciousness forward. They help us with our evolution, and so as soul beings, I really feel that they're linked with us. And everyone that I've ever met in my profession as an equine artist, and the connections that I have with people painting their horses portraits, or doing the work that I do where people encounter these horses, I run into people from all walks of life that are either, even if they're never encountered a horse, or never really thought about it, to people who are just, they live and breathe horses every single moment. And I've always felt this incredible bond. There's just no denying, when someone stands in front of a work of art and they just start to are moved to tears, and they don't even, just like that experience I had when the horse licked my hand, it's there's something there. And a dear uh, close friend and sister of mine asked me recently, she said, if you could, quintessentially put all of everything that you love about horses into, like, why horses? Why is it horses for you? And I said, horses are my experience of the divine. And so to me, they are my guides, and they're how I experience that kind of heart opening, ascending kind of energy, that and challenging, because they ask us to step up and become who we were meant to be. And all the experiences I had with my horses here at our farm, it was always about, you know, stand up for yourself, stand up for, and as an advocate for the horse in your life or the person in your life, and also loving and letting go. Beautiful and heartbreaking stories of what it was like to have these incredible creatures but have health issues, or the caretaking that was involved. So I don't know. I think that they just are, it's timely for our culture to remember that they've been in service to us for all of these thousands of years, really, and that it's time to give back, that to bring their ascension and ours to the point where we're no longer thinking of them as a domesticated sports, form of entertainment, that there's a sentient being that is willing to co-create the future with us.
So would you say that that is about now bringing that awareness to what you just said, and that that is how the role of horses is changing in our culture now? That
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's just been, I'm so glad to be on the planet at this time, to be given the work that I am doing and I have been doing. I've been doing it long enough that I've seen the transition between people's awareness of animals in general,
Mhm.
much less horses, from 20 years ago or 30 years ago to now, just that this amazing co-creation of people becoming aware that these beings are here as guides and guardians, and they have our well-being at heart. They are trying to wake us up and help us heal the planet, and that every being that comes into our life in some form, whether it's in reality or in an oracle deck, is here to teach us, and we have a lot to learn. So it's been an amazing journey.
Yes, I can see that. I think I'll share with you my dream that I had, and this was a few months ago. So my you said that the way that you interact with the horse, the way what the horses are to you, it is a partner of the divine. It's the divine, messenger for you. It is, uh,
Hmm.
in that way. That's how you see the horses. So, I always look at what is nature communicating to me around in my daily life. When I'm out and about on my daily walks, or when I'm in nature, and what are the communications when I see an eagle fly over, when I see an hawk, come into my sphere, when I see, anything, to a cricket,
Me
to
too.
a spider, you name it, all of the ways in which nature communicates. And so the horse, I learned that the horse is about personal power. So personal power is what the horse is communicating to you. And even when you were talking earlier, you were saying that the horse is here to remind us to stand up for ourselves, personal power. So a few months ago, I had this dream where I was actually in the place that I'm living now. And usually my dreams are very prophetic, where I dream not just for myself, but also for the collective of what we are going through as a collective right now. So it's not just personal, but it is a collective dream. And so I'm in my place of living where I'm living now, and I'm living in a 1,200 square foot a condo apartment kind of thing. And I was coming out of my bedroom, and all of a sudden I noticed that there were 12 wild horses, 12 wild horses in my living room. 12 wild horses, right? And I saw them and I got so scared. I got so scared that I stepped back into the bedroom because I didn't want them to see me. That was my thought process. I remember, hide. You don't want them to see you, because I felt like they were going to trample all over me when they see me because they were wild.
Mhm.
And so then I looked and I said, I have got to let them out. I have got to let them out. I have to go and somehow get to the back door and open up the back door, and so that I can let them out, but I can't let them see me because because they're wild and they're going to trample all over me. This was my thought. So I ran to the back door and opened the back door, and I knew that one horse would see the opening, and then they would follow, and they would all come running through, and then running through the door. The door is a see-through glass door. So I'm standing behind the glass through door, and the horses are running through. And the last horse stood in the doorway, and instead of running through, turned and looked me directly in my eyes. And then left. And
I'm just covered in chills.
I was like, oh my God, right? This is such
Wow.
wow. And so when I woke up from that dream, I was like, wow, this was huge, 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 huge. So of course, I immediately went and wrote the dream down because I wanted to remember every detail about it. But I was also taken back, and it took me a little while to, I'd love for you to draw a card on it, but I first want to tell you what my messaging was around all of this. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I'm still getting insight around this. I'm still getting
That's
insight.
what they call a big dream with a capital B.
That was a big dream. And remember when I was talking about the collective. So, in my belief system, in my interpretation, just like what the horses mean to you, the horses mean they are a divine partner for you. And for me, the horses represented personal power, stand up for yourself, energy. And when did I have that dream? A few months back. And so what does that mean for the collective? Well, for the collective, for myself included, is that there is wild, raw power in our home, and we must take responsibility for that power. We must take responsibility, not hide from it like I tried to do, like letting it out because I didn't know what to do with it. It's too much. And I'm sure that many of us that are waking up to our divine, true self are, can feel overwhelmed with all of that raw personal power. What are we going to do with it? And how are we going to channel that? And so that was what I got from that. And I'm still, gaining insight into it.
Oh my gosh. That is just what a beautiful and powerful and daunting dream for someone, especially now that you're remembering, especially that, no wonder you thought they would trample you, not only that they were in your house, but also, that you had been injured, before by the horse. So yes, I was fascinated when you first started, and I do work a little with my own dreams. I'm part of a dream group, so I have a little familiarity with um, some things about dreams. And one of them is that your house, when you dream of your house, it's a house in your dream. It's usually yourself, or the collective, like you said. It's our body. It's where we live. And and you brought up, you said I live in a 1,200 square foot house, a condo, and then you said there were 12 horses. So I thought that was interesting, that it would be interesting to look up the significance of 12 and numerology and that kind of thing. It's also, the course of a year, 12 months, and that kind of thing. So the symbology around 12 might be really interesting. Uh, and and so interesting that you had to withdraw back into the bedroom, like, the safest space in the home, and that the horses were, you were afraid that they would trample you, and that is an understandable fear in an enclosed space. But what a beautiful thought that you not only were willing to take that risk to let them free, that it seems to me it wasn't just your personal, need for safety in terms of I've got to get them out of here, but also a gift to them, set them free, set that part of your psyche free.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a beautiful piece. I had not put that in there yet,
Hmm.
because that I think that also speaks with my messaging as well. All my work is about empowerment, the work that I do, and it's about our freedom. It's about
Hmm.
being free and sovereign beings, right?
Hmm. Yes.
And so and yeah, and that's what the connection that you just made. So that's beautiful. I didn't think about the number 12. I will give that some thought as well. And
Hmm.
also the last horse that was running through, that stopped in the doorway, was a white horse. The horses
Wow.
were all colors, and that was a white horse that was very,
Direct. Right there. And that would be the 12th horse, right?
yeah.
So he was the last horse, she. So, and white is an amazing color for horses. In history, they were the divinatory horses. There's actually there's a historical reference to horses as being oracles in ancient cultures, Germanic cultures. It was called hippomancy. So the living horse was actually asked in a temple to step over spears that were laid on the ground, and however they walked around these objects, it was like an oracle reading for the witnesses and the guardians of the temple. So they are a very powerful and potent being, and I don't like using the word harnessing, but that they carry us. They are embodied freedom,
Mm.
and they can help carry our soul into that sense of freedom, because as these kind of puny humans, we don't really get that vast experience of unadulterated joy and freedom. It's just watching them can evoke that in us. But it is scary. It can be scary, especially if you're a puny human.
Yeah,
So
or you're in a small space and you've got, 12 wild horses in your living space. I
right,
mean, I don't know. Yeah, probably 12 could fit in here, but that would be it.
right. Oh my gosh.
So that
So
was, yeah.
that's amazing. I just was covered with chills the whole time you were talking about it. I love hearing and it's so interesting too, because you had this dream before I was even on your radar, or the Council of Horses. So
Totally. And I was telling a friend about it, and she said to me, and she goes, have you thought about, this is the conversation. A friend said to me, have you thought about possibly, doing some work with horses, to go to a ranch and go see some horses. And then she said to me, this is what she said. She goes, Connie. And I said, oh yeah. I said, I know Connie. I said, she's been on my show before. And then I ran into Connie. And
of
then
course you did.
you came along. So,
Yes, she said, "I think you need to talk with Kim."
so this was also perfect.
Yes, that's so beautiful, and Connie is definitely a woman of the horse, and
This woman. Yeah.
is a mutual friend, and actually Connie has been a huge guide for me in my life, and has led me to the places that I needed to initiate, and the experience I mentioned briefly of meeting Linda Kohanoff and Sandra Wallen 20 years ago, that was initiated because of Connie when I first met Connie. So
Wow.
she's definitely has this horse consciousness at heart, and is helping me manifest that. So thank you, Connie. I know you're listening.
Yes.
And Yeah, so as we were talking, I started flipping through the cards and I wanted to choose a card for that dream to find out what it means for you and for the collective. And the card that I picked was the white horse, mythic
Oh,
horse.
yeah.
And this is a very powerful card. It essentially it almost is like he's the spokeshorse of the card deck. He is a mythic being that encapsulates and embodies all that horses are to humanity. So it's difficult to see again, but when someone sees the art on my website or in the card deck, on his body are images of the languages of ancient humanity, Sanskrit, Chinese, Greek, that say the word horse. And that was symbolic of actually when Sandra and I both engaged in meditation to ask the consciousness, how does this want to manifest? What would be our way of communicating with these beings? And this horse appeared to both of us almost identically in similar ways. And what was so intriguing about it was that his coat was like a movie screen, and over his coat, for both of us, we saw symbols of anything that we engage with about the horse in our culture, in our movies, in our books, and how we feel in our heart. Anything that's written or said or drawn about horses just played on his body like a movie screen. And it was, I would like to read a little bit about that because I think it will speak to your dream. He says, so we wrote the card deck. The horses are speaking in the first horse, the first person, because they are speaking directly to the reader. I appear when it's time for you to travel deep inside your humanity to help you release the reverence you hold for order and convention. Herein you begin to make sense of the world in a different way beyond the boundaries of upbringing and education. I give voice and shape to the reasons you feel drawn to horses, even if you do not understand them. Myth is a way of talking about the ineffable and begins to reveal the coded language of your soul. I will help you find the compelling narratives that define the qualities of who you are. Connect to the definitions of self you bring to the world, then push out beyond the edges of those stories to become the author of your personal myth. So what is a dream but a personal myth and and a collective myth, right?
Yes, it's so beautiful. And the fact that, this horse that you're just talking about was also a white horse, and
Yes.
that was also the horse that was in the doorway. And I think the horse as the doorway,
Mhm.
the horse as
Absolutely.
the horse as the doorway. So
Mhm.
um, I wanna ask you the question is what is horse consciousness and why should it matter even to non-horse people?
Yes. Well, I think that we've been evidencing that through this conversation because I believe that they allow us a broader view. There's a fascinating thing about horses is that as humans, we are, focused on where we have a predatory view of the world. Our eyes are in the front of our head like predators, and we see what's right in front of us. We focus down on the microcosm of everything. And horses have a wide view. Their eyes are almost on the sides of their head. They Through
Mhm.
evolution, they were actually designed to be able to see almost 360 degrees. It's about 300 degrees around them simultaneously on both sides. And so they see the wide view, they see the overview of what is it that needs to come into balance and what is a threat, what is coming my way as a gift, and they don't hold on to the intensity of even the threat. They move to safety and they get right with themselves and with their herd, and then they move on and they're in harmony with nature. So I think that we, as humans, have a lot to learn about that wide view and what we consider the seventh generation, or how to embody balance for ourselves and our herd, and not just be so focused on our limited perspective.
Yes. I mean, this is such a good reminder especially, in these times of change, because everything right now feels extremely uncertain. And to have a broader view, and not be, so fixated on the way it used to be,
Mhm.
and the way, because all of those things are changing. And so the horse energy can help us with, our evolution right now, and also our healing. I'm sure that you have had many, many, many experiences with horse healing,
Yes.
healing with horses. Do you want to talk to us about that?
I'd love to. Yeah, the gifts of horses are, I mean, I'm constantly becoming aware of that, every single day. And when I first began doing my art, I just intuitively had a sense that horses had a healing presence, and always, my love for them, of course. And when I poured my love for them into my art, then I discovered that people I encountered would stand in front of a work of art, and they'd have emotions come up that they didn't always understand, as I mentioned. And sometimes it was not anything to do with the horse. Like I did a painting with a horse and a butterfly, and the butterfly is almost as big as the horse. It's called Bella's Song. And this one woman came and stood in front of it, and she just began to, tears started coming down her face. And I said, would you like to talk about anything? And she said, I just can't understand that, why I'm looking at this, but somehow it's reminding me of my brother, and he passed away, and he
Mhm.
was her younger brother. And there was a big symbology in her life with him and with butterflies. But I had a feeling like if she had just walked by a booth that had butterflies, she wouldn't have thought of her brother. But there's something about the horse that
Mm.
evokes, they're catalysts. That freedom that we're talking about is, they open up our heart, just being in the presence of the work of art, much less a physical horse. And so when I began understanding more of what was going on with my art, and I wanted to engage that with the viewer, I also simultaneously was beginning to learn that when I was in the presence of horses, emotions came up that I couldn't understand. And especially when I wasn't with my own horses, who I was used to caretaking, and was always focused on with that, human centered view of, how do I help them? How do I fix them? How do I find a practitioner? How do I feed them? All of that stuff. But when I could be in a meditative space with a horse, and especially with guidance from people who are skilled in interpreting that language, even more than I was, because I'm, you know, an acolyte and an apprentice to the horse. And it's important to have a witness, because that's the key. Is when there's a witness, somebody is seeing what you're not seeing. And the horse is emulating something about what's in your heart and your thoughts. And it's impossible to record what's happening, because you're in an altered state. But it's uncanny how many experiences I've had and others have had, and that I've co-facilitated experiences and witnessed this kind of experience, where it's a new field. And we were talking about how horses are changing human consciousness, through the work of Linda Kohanoff and equine assisted teachers from all over the world. I mean, it's a field now. It used to be, there was a handful of people that you could count on two hands that did this kind of work, and now it's a profession, where people assist in providing the environment for people to come and be in the presence of horses for healing. And the horses are doing energy work, they do Reiki, they do, they don't call it Reiki, but it's horse energy. And it's receiving, and they open us up. So just briefly, just an experience I recall, the very first time that I entered the space with a horse, not expecting anything, not knowing anything about this kind of work. I was actually thinking I was researching it for my art, and I was just, intellectually thinking, oh, this will be a nice experience. And it's a very somatic experience. So you're led through, an experience of what Linda Kohanov would call a body scan. So you're facing away from the horse, and you tune in with your body and what parts of your body are coming to your attention, and do they have a message for you. And so then when you turn around and you enter the space with the horse, what changed, that kind of thing. And I mean, I walked into this space with this horse who wasn't even trained or known in the field of facilitated learning. She was a school horse at a riding stable, and I walked into that space with her, and I just began to sob, and I was like, where the heck is this emotion coming from? And that was just the catalyst, the opening for a lifelong conversation. But it was clear to me after that experience that there was way more going on than just the simple interpretation of something happening. I mean, this was a soul experience, and I think that's really what they help us tap into.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that came through my mind while you were speaking, and just seeing again the evolution of how our culture is changing on this planet with horses, and that even with the healing that is taking place, the emotions that it brought up for you during the times where all of a sudden, where's this emotion coming from? And so the horses are a catalyst to bring up old suppressed emotions in us so that we can be aware of them, heal them, release them, and let them go. And in a sense, they're also, you could call them facilitators. You could call them, the horses are spiritual advisors.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautifully said. And I truly agree. And the emotion is what tells us that this is, it's happening, and that it's unexplainable, and that there's something, that the horses are tapping into that has nothing to do with, just because I love horses or whatever, it's a message. And then what comes to mind, through the journaling and through the conversation, and what the horse plays out, and usually what plays out in the experience is some kind of healing. And it's phenomenal. And then I also witnessed in workshops where we hosted events here when my horses were living. They're all past now, but where I saw the horses that I spent everyday beautiful time with and caretaking, I watched them transform when someone came on the property that needed their help. The ones that were, the people were drawn to the horse, and the horse was drawn to the person for a reason, and it was usually that they had something in common. So the horse was reflecting what that person needed, and it was uncanny because I thought I knew these horses, but then when people showed up that were new members to the herd, essentially, they reflected what those people needed, and the people were able to receive that message. It was just miraculous.
The show called Heartland?
Yes, I do.
I don't know how many times I've watched that show over the course of, since 2020 or whatever. But just there was a lot of healing that was happening for me watching that show. There were so many wonderful things about it. First of all, the nature and the beauty of where that was all filmed in Canada. A great script, a great crew, and a great actors. And then, of course, the horses. And what you were saying is, um, which is why I made that connection, is when you walk away from the horse, which is what Amy used to do, would walk away from the horse, and then the horse would have the opportunity to come to her,
By
rather than
choice.
by
Hmm.
choice. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I always found that to be very soft and very loving, a very soft and very loving way to connect the way that they did. And it was the horse's choice, because the horse might have had issues before, or had a difficult time, PTSD, trauma,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I did appreciate that very much.
That's wonderful. That's another example of how horses are, in our culture, the mythic horse would be nodding his head, like he's saying, yes, the heartland is playing across my body too, because, it's a popular culture experience that's allowing people to witness that miraculous gift that horses offer us. That's what's so amazing about them, is that no matter how many times they've come across humans that didn't understand them, or even mistreated them, for the most part, when they are allowed to do their healing, and when we ask instead of dominate, they always come to us, and it's a miracle. It's just incredible, their forgiveness and their love, and their willingness to be in partnership, because it's in their DNA. They are a social being. And I think that's what, when we were talking about what they have to teach humanity, I was thinking about that when you mentioned that about we talked about the wide view. And the other thing that came to mind was the herd consciousness, because in their natural surroundings, especially, the wild horses are the ones that really know this harmony of interrelating, and how to keep the herd as a whole, how to keep the herd safe, and who it's not about leadership, and the stallion as being the grand, control. In fact, it's the lead mare that's in charge. And but for the well-being of the community, it's not about, I'm in charge because I'm the one that's going to kick you around. Any kind of uh, what we might perceive of as disharmony is actually just trying to return to harmony. And when we put horses in domestic circumstances, and even the horse that bit you, in that sense, there's so many dynamics that we cause as humans, food oriented, or where they're restrained in a fence and they can't actually do what they've chosen to do, or be with the horse that they birthed, or whatever. All of those restrictions, which we put on members of our own society, are what causes the disharmony.
Yeah, and it really is about returning harmony back to our human selves, our earthly selves, our individual selves, our collective selves, returning harmony to this planet. That's, a big piece. And then also with how we treat each other, and how we live here and cohabitate together, and how we grow and learn from each other. Not, release and let go of the abuse and the war, of leave all of that behind with this Taurus full moon this weekend. I mean,
Mhm.
now is really the time to let all of that go and return back to ways that we can evolve together and really step into our gifts and do no harm, right? Because that's
Absolutely.
really, really important. So, what do you want to leave the audience with today? What one thing that you want to leave with us today? Not everybody has access to see horses in the physical, right? Even though that is a nice goal to put on your to-do list in the future, like activity wise, where it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go ride horses, but find a horse sanctuary where you can just be in the presence of the horse. And find a place like that. That's something that's coming to my mind to do. Um,
Mhm.
you know
Absolutely.
and then, of course, work with your Oracle card deck, which, let's tell the audience where they can find that deck.
Yes, thank you so much. I invite you to explore it. It's published by Inner Traditions Bear and Company, so the publisher has their website, and through Inner Traditions, you can find it on booksellers worldwide, and Amazon, and other online sellers. I sell signed copies on my website, which is spiritofhorse.com. And so yes, it's out in the world, and I'm so excited. It's starting to filter out into Germany, and all these wonderful places, and it's so beautiful to see it manifested. And yes, I totally agree. It's not about, in this conversation, writing is something that is an art form, that those who really want to pursue that with a partner, that they want to partner with a horse, then that's obviously a beautiful dream, and something that is available. But this conversation is more about listening, and it's hard to listen to a horse that you're riding for the first time, and usually they're trained to just do what the human says. But this is an opportunity for anyone who's drawn to horses to be in the presence of horses in a way that allows them to receive their guidance, and to journal with themselves, and ask the horse and ask themselves, what is it you have to show me about myself and
Yes.
about you?
Yes, exactly. I'm so glad that your work is getting out there and that there is a new evolution as well for the horses, and that is going to change, and that it's already changing, and that people are becoming more aware. And thank God for, these type of platforms that we have with podcasting, where we can come together just in such a great way to share your passion, your gifts, and the gifts of the horses with everyone. So
Oh.
including, people that are not horse people, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we really intended to try to put that as number 1 on our goal, because when we first started promoting this to publishers and through an agent and trying to get it out into the world, there were a lot of publishers that just were like, "Oh, this is not for us. We're not a horse-oriented publisher, and it's a niche market." And we're like, oh, if they only knew that, there's just millions of people out there that have some kind of, tangible reason that they feel in their heart that they need to connect with horses, and they don't even know what that is. It's not about whether they're equestrian. And I think wild horses are a beautiful metaphor from your dream too, as well. They're so endangered, and they're so threatened right now in our culture. They're being persecuted and pursued to their end, really, and it's really very disturbing. So anything that anyone could do to support the wild horse rescues, and to end the roundups, I'll just have to plug that in. But it's they we have so much to give them, and they are under attack. So thank you so much for opening your heart to horse kind. We actually, in the deck, our goal was to not only benefit the humanity and each individual that reads this card deck, but also to benefit horse kind. And each card has a message for humankind and a message for horse kind. And the other fun thing is, just briefly, is that we designed it so that the cards can be read for a horse. So if you do end up going and meeting with a horse, or having thoughts about what am I to learn from the horse, you could take the card deck with you and pick the card that can be your interpreter of what is it the horse wants you to know. And also, what does the horse need to know? Read the book to the horse. It just gives me chills. It's so beautiful. I've done a few readings now with people who do equine assisted therapy, and we picked cards for the horses, and it was so exciting. It was like what the human needed to know about that horse in this circumstance, how that horse needed, help, assistance, or its own perception. And then we even put the cards out on the ground and let the horse pick the cards. So it's so exciting. Or your dog, or whatever person or animal in your life.
It's such a beautiful way. We have a lot of healing to do. And, now is the time when we have the beautiful tools and resources by wonderful artists and healers like yourself, that have the tools made available for us. And so that we can, change some of the ways that we've been doing things and make things more harmonious, like we said earlier. So I want to thank the audience for listening and tuning in. And I want to thank you, Kim McElroy, for coming on the show and for sharing your gifts with us all today.
Thank you. It's been a deep pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll see everyone next time. Take good care. Bye-bye.